Hey everyone, it's David from MDBootstrap.com. In this video, we're gonna build this translation app which gonna help you to translate whatever you want into a different set of languages. There is an option to swap languages and even to
Dzień dobry. Dzień dobry.
add the voice over on it. We also add the copy option, so if you click on the icon, it will copy. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to work. By the way, this tutorial is going to be slightly different than all the others, and this is because I've just formatted my PC. So I have nothing but fresh Windows operating system on my PC, so I don't have any other software, so I'll have to just install it. I thought I'm going to go it along with you. So if you want, you can follow with me all the steps which are required to start from very scratch, installing Visual Studio Code, installing Node, NPM, basically anything which is needed for this project. Or if you want to skip this part, you can just jump. You're gonna find the timeline down below in the description where you can just jump into the different section and don't have to watch all the steps, which I'm gonna do in a second. However, watching this whole video might help you because I'm probably gonna encounter some issues, which is a normal part of development. Let me also remind you, as always, that I strongly encourage you not only to watch this video, but also code along with me. So please do pause this video whenever you feel like, whenever you want to rewrite the script, whenever something doesn't work, just code along with me because it's actually coding which makes you a better developer and not watching tutorials. Okay, so as you can see, over here, I don't have Node, I don't have Git, so I have to install all of that. So let's do it one by one. Let's go to Node.js website and let's get let's say we're gonna get the stable version of Node. So this one will install shortly. Meanwhile, let's download Git, download Windows. So we need to get Windows and okay, so this is the Node installation. Let's just go through it. Okay, add to path. Yes, we want tools. Okay, let's install all necessary dependencies, as otherwise we're gonna have to install them sooner or later anyway. So this is getting installed. So now let's download Visual Studio Code. Okay, let's get the newest version. It's getting installed. Okay, let's not start installation at once. So I already have the additional tools window here. Let it install. We don't want to start installation of a few things at the same time because that may cause some issues. So let's wait till installation of Node is done. Okay, I see that it's already installing Python. That's cool because we're gonna need Python in our project, which I'm gonna show you in a second.
A few moments later.
Okay, meanwhile, while we are waiting for the installation, let me show you what we're gonna use in our project. So we're gonna use LibreTranslate. So this is the open source translation API. So basically there are two options. First of all, we can call the deployed version over here. However, that will require us to have API for which you have to pay basically, because obviously someone is hosting it and you have to pay, or you can have the self-hosted version. So we're gonna do this approach. So we're gonna install this as our server and we're gonna run this engine locally. So we're gonna have something like this locally. This is not the best translation API ever, but it doesn't really matter because the whole idea behind building this app is how to connect to an API and how to deploy it. And then you can use actually anything you want. If you want to use Google Translate, that's fine. You can also do that. Again, it's something you have to pay for. But if you want, if you need it in your project, there is not an issue. The whole idea is about how to host it and if in case you want to have the self-hosted version and how to connect it. And then it doesn't really matter where the API is because then you just change the URL. So let's wait for this one to finish the installation and we're gonna get back once it's done.
A few moments later.
Okay, so it's finally done, and as you can see, we'll have to reboot computer afterwards. So first, let's install all the remaining packages and apps. So coming back to Git now, let's install this one. Next, Git bash. This is the most important. Okay, add Git bash profile to Windows daily. Well, let it be. Okay, so use Vim, right? So this is the editor we want to use. Let Git decide overriding default branch names in new repositories. Master. Yeah, let's keep it normal. Recommended. Okay, let's use Git and optional Unix tool forms. So it will install some extra options. As you may know, Windows is quite limited when it comes to command line. So it will just add some extra options like this. Bundled OpenSSH library. So all that stuff for the generation and verification of SSH keys. Check out Windows style because we are using Windows, and yep, default Git credential manager, so for keeping track of credential. Okay, that's fine. We don't need symbolic links for now, and that would be it. Let it install. Most probably I could start the installation of VS Code simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
But I rather wait for it. And finally, let's install Visual Studio Code. And yes, I definitely want this two options, so that will help me to open projects much quicker. I'm gonna show you that once installation is done. And let's launch Visual Studio Code for the first time. So here we have. I think it's a high time to restart my PC, so be right back.
A few moments later.
Okay, welcome back. So I'm gonna show you the first thing about Visual Studio Code. So because we checked this extra option, when you go to the folder, when you want to use your Visual Studio Code, you can just right click and then you have this option open with code, which will basically open a window for us. And since a couple of versions, it is asking about whether we trust this author or not. Obviously, I do trust myself, so I'm gonna check it out. Let me make it bigger. Okay, so we're gonna need two parts of the app. So we're gonna have our API, and then we're gonna have also front of the app. So let's create two folders. And what we need to do first, let's start with the API. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna install or try to install or actually download and build this Libre translate. So let's go to their website, go to the GitHub, and let's try to clone it. There are two options to do it. So we can either install it via pip, which is Python library manager, like npm for Node. But I'm going to show you the full way of downloading and building this code. So let's try to copy this one and go to Visual Studio Code. Let's open console. So terminal, new terminal. Okay, and now let's go to API. Now let's do Git. By the way, let's do write Git. Okay, it's working fine. So otherwise you would say it doesn't recognize the command, but now it does. So which means the Git was installed successfully. Let's quickly check Node. It's working fine, perfectly. So let's do Git clone, and now I'm gonna paste. Whoops, can't show history. So open. Okay, clipboard manager is something which is really nice to have. Okay, so we have it here, and now if I press enter, this is very important, it will clone to the folder called Libre Translate, and I don't want to have another folder inside my folder API, so I'm going to put dot at the very end, and this will clone all the files just right here, right? So I have all my files here. Let me make it bigger for you. Okay, and now let's see what else we have to do. So now install and run, build and run. Okay, so we did clone. We don't have to go into this folder because we cloned it into the folder which we've already been into. And now let's run this command pip install -e. Okay, so as you know, Python has been installed when I was installing Git. If I didn't check this out, it would probably complain that it doesn't recognize the pip, so we would have to go and install pip. Okay, so we have some errors here. Let's see what's going on. Okay, let's check this out.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Oh boy, that was a story. So let me explain you what just happened. After reading half of the internet, I figure out that there is an issue with PyTorch, which is apparently needed by our translator API. So how it looks like, it doesn't work Python 3.11, which we've been using, right? Which is the newest version. And this is a very, 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 very common issue, unfortunately, when it comes to programming, right? So some packages are newer and they depend on someone else, and someone else doesn't update them yet, obviously. So this is something you're gonna stumble upon very often. So what I initially tried to do, I was searching for different solution, and obviously the first answer here was still up and valid, because even though it was answered in 2020, which is like 2 years back, I thought, you know, this is one important thing, that sometimes when you check the answer on the Stack Overflow and any other answer, you need to check the date, because there might be some other answer which is not as, it doesn't have that many votes, but there are some newer which are actually better. And actually, in this case, the guy was right, and there was one more comment over here which was stating that the 3.7.9 is the only version which works with the PyTorch. So I was trying all the different options to install PyTorch with my newest version of Python, but none of them actually work. Okay, so what I did then, I finally realized, and then I tried to checking with the PyTorch whether they have any solution. So I go to PyTorch, I checked for the issues. Well, as you can see, they have 5,000 issues, 5,000 plus, which means that, and most of them open. So, well, that usually doesn't mean anything good. But you can see that there is this ticket which is still open. It's been raised quite recently because it's just 3 months back, but it's still open, 2 out of 8 tasks. So it's not done yet, and we're not gonna go this way. So then I start looking for different options. So if I cannot make PyTorch working with the newest Python, I will have to get the older version of the Python. The problem with it is that actually, as much as you can go to the older version, if you go to Python downloads, and apparently they can download some older version, if you try to do it, you don't have option to download installers. There are no installers. So Python basically says that because of the security reasons, you should use the newest version always. So there is no way to install it. So I started looking how to install the older version of it. So I found a couple of options over there. And apparently, well, I did a couple of trials which didn't work, which I'm gonna skip right now. I'm gonna go jump directly to one which works. So I tried PyEnv. PyEnv is a tool which basically allows you to install or manage different versions of Python. So sometimes you may just need to use and switch the versions. For that, you need to have Chocolatey, which is apparently a package manager for Python. So I was trying to install this Chocolatey, but apparently when I tried to install it, I realized, I got a message that it has been already installed. So when I was installing Git, apparently it also installed this extra tool, so I didn't have to do it. So then I was get back to installing the PyEnv. And if you go to PyEnv install instruction and you search for installation for Windows, you can realize that you can easily install it on macOS or Unix, but for Windows, author actually suggests to use this fork, which is over here. So what I tried to do, I try to install this web request, this command with PowerShell. So again, what we do, we open PowerShell as administrator, try to run the command, and what happened is that I got issue with the policy. So I got the error about policy. I can check this for you, policy. So I was getting this error, and as a result, I had to run a command. So what does it mean? Basically, by default, Windows doesn't allow you, there's a policy which doesn't allow you to run certain commands which might be harmful for your Windows, which is good, but obviously we know what we are doing. We know we want to install this, which is okay, which is recommended. So we want to use it. So I had to run this command, set execution policy to remote sign, and accept it. And after that, I was able to actually install this PyEnv. Once I did it, I tried a couple of different versions because I forgot about that there was this version listed here. So I tried to install 3.9, 3.8, none of them work. So I finally got 3.7.9. The other issue which I stumbled upon was that whenever I was trying to install it, it was running this command. So just to remind you, this is the one, this is the step from installation guide over here. It was using the newest version of Python, right? So even though I installed the older version, it was keep on using the newest version. So there are two ways to basically fix it. One is change the configuration to using different one. I was trying to manually run it, as you can see in my history. I was trying to, oh, it doesn't know history. Oh, I closed the terminal, so it doesn't know the history. So I was basically trying to run it, because you can do pi-379 version, which will use this specific version, but it somehow didn't work. Pip always tried to install with the newest Python. So what I ended up doing was basically uninstalling the newest version of Python, which is 3.11. Obviously, I'm gonna reinstall it as soon as PyTorch gonna get the compatibility with it, or if I'm gonna use it for different project. But finally, we are here. So we have our code compiled. So let's try to run it now and see if we can make it work. By the way, I think this is a great example. I'm really happy we stumbled upon so many errors, because this is a normal thing for developers to do. And I hope this can give you all a bit of good feeling that you are not the only one who is keep on solving the issues when you try to do something, right? You watch the tutorial and all of a sudden it doesn't work because it was recorded half a year back, and now the versions are different, and so on. This is the normality of working as a developer. So don't worry, I'm happy I was going through all of it so I can show you that this is absolutely normal. And this is also a very important skill as a developer, to know how to deal with all these issues, because this is how it's going to look like. I mean, the new software is being released every day, and it's almost impossible to keep everything up to date. So every now and then you're gonna encounter that you're gonna install something and it's not gonna work with something else because it wasn't updated yet, or it's obsolete, and so on. So don't worry, just follow the same way I showed you, to trying to one by one different solution, asking others, looking, searching if someone already encountered that, go to the official documentation, go to the official issues tracking list to see if someone already reported that. If not, report yourself, and you're gonna finally eventually make it happen. Okay, so let's try to run it now, and finger crossed for running it without any issues. Okay, so now it's downloading the languages. So again, it might take a while. Let it download all 58 models. So these are all the variation between languages. It doesn't mean there are 58 languages. That means there are 29 languages, because probably most of the cases you have like Arabic to English and English to Arabic, which is different model for that. So let it install. So let me speed it up for you.
A few moments later.
Okay, so we have it. Support for 30 languages, 58 models, so probably some of them are just one way. And here it is. As you can see, this is our translation engine. It's running localhost, so this is our address. And we can call it like this. So let's say, good evening, Spanish. Buenas noches. That's perfectly fine. So let's move to front end part. Now let me close all other things which we don't need at the moment, and let's get back to our front part. Okay, so this is running over here. For the front part, we're gonna have index HTML file. We're gonna need also styles, CSS, and we also want to have scripts.js file. And now what we're gonna need, do we have Emmet here? Yeah, Emmet is built in. So as you've seen, I put the exclamation mark. Let me make it bigger for you. So I put the exclamation mark over here and I pressed up and I got this very basic structure for the terminal. I think we can actually close it. It's not killing it, it's just closing it. So it's still up and running, right? It's still up and running, so we didn't kill it. What I want to do now, I want to open this and have a preview. So for that, I'm gonna go to extensions and go for the live server. Right, so the very first thing I'm gonna install is live server, which gonna makes our life much easier, because what we're gonna do, okay, it's done, and because now we can do open with live server, and this will open. By the way, I just got some security alert about Visual Studio Code. Oh, by the way, I had this feature. Do you know this? Have you ever had it? I finally learned how to solve it. So every now and then I would just lose all my windows open, and this is because of this shaking whatever feature here. So if you want to undo it, you have to shake again, which is kind of ridiculous, or maybe it's not, but I don't like it. So let me see how to Windows 10 disable shake to minimize. Go to setting system multitasking. Okay, multitasking settings. Oh, here it is. So where was it again? Title bar window shake. Title bar. Hello, where is my window? Oh, welcome to Windows. Under title bar, I can see it. Snap window, timeline, alt tab, virtual. Okay, so apparently it's not here, so we will check other solution to this one. Creative templates, edit group policies. Let's see if we can have it. For some reason, this Chrome browser has priority over the Windows settings, but let it be. And then we go to user configuration, administrative templates, desktop, turn off AeroShake. Turn off AeroShake. Enable to disable, that's interesting. Edit. Oh, here it is. Jesus Christ. Okay, apply. And let's see. Yeah, it doesn't disappear. Perfect. Whew, that was hard. Okay, now let's get back to our coding. So now we want to see our local host, which is here. And now if we type and save, it will auto refresh. Now what I want to do, I want to use some kind of library. I'm going to use MD Bootstrap for it, but you can use anything, or you can actually don't use anything. I'm just gonna make it easier. I'm just gonna use it because it's gonna make it easier for me to work with styles. So I'm just simply gonna copy paste all of that, and this will get me font awesome, which we're gonna use, and also Roboto and MDB, which is obviously Bootstrap on steroids, because I'm gonna use row, container, grid, and so on. So let's start building our HTML over here. Let me put it to the left. We can close this unnecessary windows over here, and let's start building. Okay, so let's start with our body. Class equals bg secondary. So that's gonna give us a bit of this grayish look. And now what we want to do here is I want to add container with empty5. So this will create container, and it's gonna give some margin from the top. Now inside this container, I want to have row, and inside this row I would love to have call md8. So this will be the column. I want to have it centered. So if I do border, you should be able to see it. It doesn't have content, so let me add some content here. Okay, it's not centered, right? There is different margin from left to right, so we want to make it centered with row justify content center. Okay, and now although on the small screen you can't see the difference, you can see it on the bigger one. So we have this one here. Maybe let me do it like this. Okay, and now within our MD, I'm gonna use card. So this card is coming from MD Bootstrap. You can use also obviously just divs, but I just like this white look. So I'm gonna use this basic card and put it inside here. And what we're gonna do is that I don't actually need title, and this button we're gonna keep for later. Okay, so now within this card, or actually card body, I'm gonna have another row. By the way, we don't need this border over here, so let's get it out of it. So we'll have this row here. Oh, we don't have prettier installed, so maybe we should also add prettier. Okay, so the prettier is here. And now, as you can see, it's fixing my code. Oh, it's not. Format document. Configure prettier. Okay, now it's working fine. So as you can see, it's doing this automatically. Okay, so we have a row over here. And this is because I want to put, I want to divide this into two columns, left and right. So I'm gonna have call 6, and this is gonna be border rounded, and I want to have 2 of these. Okay, now I don't need this one anymore. So what we're gonna do inside this, we're gonna have a text area. Text, actually, let me do it like this, because we're gonna need 2 text areas. Text area, text, okay. So name, the first one will be from text, and the other will be to text. Okay, so we have this 2 over here. We're gonna take care of them in a second. For the ID, we don't need this one for now. We are not submitting this form. We'll also remove this settings over here. By the way, I'm doing small trick over here. I want to remove this and that. So I'm just highlighting this one, and I'm pressing Ctrl D, which is matching the next occurrence. So now if I remove it, I'm gonna remove both of them. Okay, in the first one, I wanna have a placeholder, and I wanna say enter text here, okay? And for the next one, we will have placeholder of translation. Okay, that's cool. And yeah, okay, that's fine for now. So once we have this call to columns, we want to add something else. We want to add icons, but before that, I just realized we also don't want to have this one editable. So I'm going to do it read only. So now we cannot actually edit this one because we don't want it. We want to show translation over here. Okay, now within this row, I'm going to have another column, which will be called 12. And this is where we're going to keep our icons. So what we want to do here, we want to add a couple of icons. So first, let's go to icons. We will have nice search here. So I want to have a copy icon. So let's have maybe this one, have a copy. Now the other one is volume, which will be for our speaker. So volume up, and this one goes here. So we have two icons. Now we're gonna have select. So this is the select where we're gonna have all the countries or the languages actually. So let's do it like this. We're gonna call it from select. Okay, and then we don't have any options here, and this is because we want to have we're gonna add this options dynamically using JavaScript. Okay, so we have select over here. Between our select, we're gonna need icons. So the icon is called exchange. So we will have this one here, and then we pretty much copy same thing. So we have select, it's gonna be 2, and then at the end we will have our volume and copy icons again, which will be used for copying translation, right? So we have volume for this text, copy for this text, select without any languages yet, then exchange to change position, and then select, volume up, and copy for this one. Okay, and finally, what we want to do is we want to add the final column to add our button into it. So we have it here, and let's do call 12, and let's put button over here, and let's call it translate, and let's give it some ID of translate. Perfect. So, okay, HTML is ready. Let's jump into style. Oh, by the way, before we start, we obviously need to link it. So link styles CSS. And now let's move to our style CSS. So for our from text and to text, which let me remind you are our text areas, these two, we want to do as follows: height 250 pixels, okay, width 100%. Oh, this doesn't work to text from text. Why doesn't work? Index from text to text dash here, and now it's working like a charm. Now we want to have border none, as we already have border in our calls. Outline also none, and then resize option, we don't want this to allow for users. Now for the font size, let's just do 18 pixel for now. Obviously then we're gonna switch it to something more responsive, but for now let's just keep it like this, and then do some paddings, which will be 10 and 15 pixels, and that's pretty much for the our text inputs. Now for the text area, let's also change placeholder, and let's do color something grayish, gray. Let's have, oh, ivory is almost white, right? So no, I wanted to have it actually something grayish. A little bit darker. but not black. How about now? Maybe a little bit more. Okay, I think it's fine. We can always play with it. Okay, for this one, I'm gonna add controls class to this column. So for this, I want to do have different cursor when I put on I. So cursor pointer. Okay, so now it looks like it's clickable. And now let's also do a little bit of tuning over here. So what I want to do for this is I want to do following. So I want to have border. I want to have it rounded. So these are all MDB classes, right? If you do check borders, this is the border, color, width, radius, and so on. So you can play with it. Different sizes. I'm using rounded 2 over here. And I want to add some padding. So this is all from Bootstrap, if you're familiar. And I want to do flex, and I want align items center and justify content center. No, actually not center. Let's do justify content between, and this will give us nice space in between, and this icon will be centered. So I think it's pretty much it. Maybe perhaps the this one. So let's do text center. Okay, let's do some margin top 2, or maybe 3, and that will work. Okay, so our placeholder is now done, so we can jump into our JavaScript. So again, we have to link our JavaScript. Now, as I mentioned before, we're gonna fill this value with the languages. So I prepared the file for you before, which you can find in the description down below. But basically what I did is I searched for language country language code JSON, and you're gonna find a lot of repositories which have this predefined files which you can use absolutely for free, or language code JSON. So there are plenty of those which you can use, and you can simply copy paste from it. So that's what I did, and I just adjusted to match the translation possibilities. So for example, this one, I found one of these, and I just remove the one which are not supported by API. So let me create a new file now. So let's call it countries, and I'm just gonna put the lang codes which are supported by our API. Okay, now once we have that, let's link our JS here. So just before body end, let's do script source. So we want to have countries JS, and we want to have script source script JS. I'm using control space for this suggestion here. Control space, and it's showing me all matching files over here. Perfect. Now let's move into scripts JS, and this is where we're gonna do a bit of logic. So what I have to do, I have to catch all these controls over here. So I need to catch this text area, all the icons, all the buttons over here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do const from text equals document get element by ID, and then from text. Okay, so this is the first one. Now, in order to do it quicker, I can just make copy of it, and then I can just be replacing this one. So for example, I can just do 2 text and then 2 over here. So this is pretty much copy paste. So let me just get it from the final project, and you can either stop video over here and write it yourself, or you can find or copy this from this code, which is in description down below this video. So what we have here, we have from text and then 2 text. Then we have from select, which is this one, and then we have to select, which is that one. We have a copy, to copy, so this and that. Then we have read, which will be the volume, right? And then we have exchange to exchange, and then we have a finally translate. So this is our button, and let me quickly check if this button has ID translate yet. Yes, it has. So perfect. We can focus now on our logic. Now, what we want to do, we want to fill up our select dynamically with all the codes. So for language in lang codes, by the way, let's see if we have access to it. So console log lang codes, and let's comment this one out. Let's open console object. Yes, we do have access to all the codes over here. Let me switch this one to bottom. Okay, so now we can comment this one out. So now we want to loop through all these languages, and what we want to do is let selected equals empty string for now. Now let option equals 2, and now we're gonna use string literals for it. So option, and now we want to have $sign and language equals n, then selected, otherwise empty string. So what it's gonna do here, it's gonna select the English as a basic one, and we're gonna get back to it. For now, I just want to have it because otherwise the Arabic will be always the first one, and I'm not sure about you, but my Arabic is still in progress, so I would rather have English just for the sake of testing it. Okay, so this will make sure that this is getting selected. So then what we want to do is we want to have value equals to, and then $sign. By the way, thanks to coloring, we can already see that I put this one here, which closed my template literals, which I obviously don't want to close yet. So value equals to language. Okay, and then we need to put it inside strings. And now we want to close this tag, and we want to put some value in it. So again, I'm going to open $sign, and I'm going to do lang codes from language, close, and then option. We have some error here, so this is where this already doesn't work because it has different colors. So this line has to have some issue. Obviously, we are short of double quotes over here. Okay, so okay, just to show you what it does, let me save this one. It doesn't do anything yet, but before we move on, I want to show you what these lang codes do. So we already seen these lang codes, right? Over here, this is our object, and if we do console log lang codes from, let's say, AR, we will see Arabic, right? So this is returning as this is key value pair. So we are passing key and we got value in return. So this is where we want to have key, right? The value will be key, like EN for English, and here we want to have the actual language name. Okay, so we have this option now. What we want to do with this option, we want to do from select insert adjusted HTML, and we're gonna do before and we will do option. So we'll add this option to it, and then we're gonna do to select, and pretty much the same. So we are doing this two at once, and as you can see, we are getting this all this field. And as I said, because of this condition over here, we have English selected by default, because otherwise we would have just Arabic, which is fine, but for the sake of testing, I just prefer to have this English by default here. Anyway, okay, so we have our select working perfectly fine. So what we can do now, let's take care of these icons. Let's start with the exchange, because that should be fairly easy. So by the way, we don't have exchange listener. So exchange will have this exchange text. Was it like this? Let me check. Translate. Oh, it doesn't have anything, by the way, so we have to add this. So what we have here was from read and copy. Okay, from read exchange to read. So let me add this missing one. So we have ID equals, this is from read, and this is from copy. This is ID exchange, and this is again to read, and this is to copy. Okay, so now we should have it. Once we have that, oh, by the way, we already had it. Sorry, I didn't notice that. Okay, what we want to do now, we want to add listener. So every time we click on it, we want to run some function. So exchange add even listener, and we want to listen for click, and then we want to run exchange text function, which we don't have yet, but we're gonna create in a second. So function exchange text without any arguments, and it's going to be fairly simple because we are just swapping the values. So let's have temp value, which we're going to use. So from text value, so we want to grab this text from here. Now this from text value will, oh, why is it like this? It was supposed to be value. So now this text will become whatever we have here. So this equals to text value, and now to text value will get the value from our temporary, right? And let's see if this works fine. So we have this, and as you can see, it's switching its position. And obviously we also have to change language here, right? So let's do the same with the language. So now our temporary value, temporary variable will store from select value, and then we will have to select value equals from select value, right? So this becomes that, and then finally from, so this is the other way around. So this from, it's taking two. Obviously it doesn't really matter. I could just put it the other way around. Doesn't really matter, but I started with this one. So now to select value equals temp. So let's check it now. We have English Arabic. Oh, I have to click the proper icon. Okay, and then check also text. So now it's working perfectly fine. It's swapping the location. Okay, so it's high time to start finally translating something. So let's do another listener. Let's connect this button to API call. So I'm gonna do translate, add even listener, and then I'm gonna do click. We are awaiting for click. And we're gonna do, actually we're gonna write the function right here. So let's do async. And then we are writing the function body. So we'll have const res, which is shorted of response, await fetch. By the way, we have it, this code over here, right? So we can actually copy it. So we have this res over here, right? And then we also want our headers here. And then we also want to have this one. Okay, and now we need to just adjust it. So the call is over here. And then we want to have, this is our string. So instead of hard coding it, we will use our from text value. So this value. Then source will be from select value. So this is the language here, the 2-letter code. Target is to select value, and format remain text. Okay, we don't have API key, so we can get rid of it because we don't need it because it's our instance, so we don't want to do it. By the way, you can set up your own instance, and then you can let others use it, and then you can even charge them for it if you want to allow different users to use only 5, 10, 50, 100 calls a day. Then you give every single person different API, and this server will basically let you put the limits on the person. We don't need to use that. Okay, so we have this headers here, and then let's do then, and then we're gonna have a response, and let's map it to response JSON. Okay, and then what we want to do is we also want to chain it to data. So here we have some response, and then we will write the console log data. Okay, so we're gonna see what's in it, and then finally, obviously, we want to also catch any error, and in that case we want to console error. Okay, so let's see if that works. Apparently it does not. I mess up parentheses somewhere here, so this one is not closed, so we have this, that here. Right, now it's working fine. Okay, so good morning from English to Arabic, translate. Oops. Okay, it reloads, so let's see. Click on the settings, preserve log, and then let's click on it. Bet request, hold on, text. Yeah, we have it here. So it's, however, it's just reloading the page, so we'll need to take care of it. But we're gonna do it in a second, but we have it here, right? So we have this translate text from English to English. Let's try to Arabic. Okay, good morning. It's English, Arabic, translate, and we have it here perfectly. Okay, let's get back here. So first of all, instead of console log data, what we would love to do is actually we will update to text value equals data, and then it was translated text. Okay. Let's see now. Perfect. And now we need to also make sure that it's not refreshing the page automatically. So,
A little longer than a few minutes later.
okay, so I lost like half an hour or so to find out why the heck this website is getting refreshed automatically after every single submit. So when I click on the button, it's getting refreshed automatically. And as I mentioned, it took me more than half an hour to find out what's going on. Because it didn't happen to me before. Actually, it's the first time it's happening to me. And thanks to the one of the comment, the GitHub, I learned one thing. So if you look at my project here, what's going on is I have opened this 2 folders in my workspace, and the green dot over here basically suggests that there was some changes in the file. So apparently every time when we call this API, there is something going on here. So some changes in the database sessions are getting updated. So probably it's logging each and every session over here, right? So once we, let's see, if we gonna remove it, let's remove all these files. And now let's make a call. You can see that there are new sessions being added over here, right? So for every new session which we do to this translate API, we are getting this new session file. And how does live server works? It's actually, it's scanning the whole directory, and every time there is change in any file, it's actually reloading our page. So because we were making a call to this API and new session were created, as you might remember, there were 2, now there are already 3. So it was creating new file and it's getting refreshed. So in order to get over this issue, what I'm going to do, I'm going to close this one. I'm not going to open the whole project here. I'm going to go into front. I'm going to open just the front end in the Visual Studio Code. And now it should not scan our API folder. So let's see if I'm right. And as you can see, I already even changed the port number because I thought there is something wrong. Maybe there is something else which is going on this port. And now we have to start our API again, because when I close Visual Studio Code, it got closed. So let's go one level up, API, and then run our Libre Translate. So now it's working fine. And then let's see finally whether it works. And now it's working fine. So let's see actually whether it translates correctly, and it's working like a charm now. Cool. So let's continue now. Let me close console here, and now what we have to do, and what's remaining. So now we're gonna take care about our icons. So let's do copy option. So from copy, add even listener, click, and now we want to add function. And what we're gonna use is we're gonna use navigator, clipboard, write text. So this will push the content of whatever content we pass here, right? So if we put any string, something. So every time I'm gonna click on this copy icon, it's gonna copy to my clipboard something. So let's double check. Else, copy, and then paste. So this is else, and now when I click to copy, it's getting something. Okay, so obviously what we want to put here, it's from text value, so the value of our text area, and let's do a small check. So if from text value return. So if there is nothing else here, we don't want to copy this, obviously. Now let's do the same for to copy. As you can see, I'm changing all at once. So let's see. Good morning, Arabic, translate, copy. And now let's paste, and it got copied. Perfect. So now let's move to our speech synthesizer. So we're gonna use again built-in function. So from read, and even listener, click this, you already know. And now again, we want to check if there is anything in it, because otherwise there is no point in actually calling this function, because there's nothing to read. So now we're gonna do const synth equals to window speech synthesis. So this is built in into web browser, and then const utter this equals new speech synthesis utterance from text value. And now we will do synth speak author this. And let's check this out. So, good morning. So I must have some typo here. Obviously it's not speech. Let's...
Good morning.
Good morning. So here it is. Obviously now we can do pretty much the same for 2. So I'm just gonna do 2. And finally, the last thing we're gonna do is let's just make sure that once we have something translated, when we remove this one, let's also get rid of this translation. So what we're gonna do, from text add event listener, but this time we're gonna listen to key up event, and then we're gonna create a function which I'm gonna do if it will check if from text value is empty, then we will do to text value. We're gonna set it to empty string. So this should clear it automatically. So something, and now remove, and that's it. Okay, so our project is actually ready. We could do some improvements though. So I'm gonna give you some ideas here, and I strongly encourage you to do it and to add this to your project. So first of all, what we could do, we could store this language preference in cookies. So in the description down below, you're gonna find a link to another tutorial about how to use cookies, how to store value in it, how to read it. So you can add this option that every time we change this language over here, it will get stored, and then once we refresh, we are not actually getting this reset to the basic English ones. This is the first thing. Second thing is we could add some notification. So check my tutorial on toaster notification, because now when we click translate on the empty string, nothing really happens, and we could actually let user know that, hey, you have to put something over here first. What else? If you check, there is option to auto detect the language over here, which we don't have in our translator yet. So you can add this third option. It's gonna show you the proper API call. So your API call is ready. You just need to adjust the values here, change the source to auto, and in response, you're gonna also see how confident our API is about that this language is actually English, and you could incorporate this somewhere here in our view. Okay, so that was a long journey, but I enjoyed it very, very much. As you can see, we spent around half of the time, or at least I spent at least half of the time. I cut off this scene from you because sometimes it took me a little bit longer to find the resolution, but eventually I made this happen. And I also want you to do it the same way. I want you to learn how to solve the issues, because this is just the way it is. This is how programming works. And many tutorials show you, the easy path, clean up when everything is ready, prepared, the code is ready, so it has to work. And then you try to repeat it yourself. You try to do it on your own, in different environment, using your own computer with different setup environment, and you're gonna encounter some issues, and then you are stuck and you can't learn anything. So I hope I just showed you that it's not like that. It's not like the tutorials always works and it's just you who doesn't work. As you've seen, I've faced so many issues with barely simple app over here, but there is no issue you cannot overcome if you apply the certain logic to it, if you learn how to search for the solution, if you learn where to search, how to search, and how to apply that. So thank you very much for watching. I strongly encourage you to, first of all, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Second of all, check all the videos I made for you in the past, because there is a lot already covered and definitely much more to come. Thank you for watching and keep coding.